A state-of-the-art fighter jet is about to take off. A large number of robotic soldiers emerge from other compartments. The woman inside the fighter jet looks at these robots. Without hesitation, she pulls the trigger in her hand. The brand new robots are scrapped like this. The story is set in the late 21st century. A global chemical war has taken place. This has made Earth uninhabitable. Living space has become a rare resource. Only 2 inhabited regions remain on Earth: the United Federation of Britain and the colony. These 2 places are on opposite ends of the Earth. The workers in the colonies, they travel back and forth between the 2 regions using a transportation system called the Descent. The male protagonist, Doug, wakes up from unconsciousness. He doesn't appear to be in good condition. A woman comes over and helps him up. She tells him they only have 10 seconds to evacuate. The woman also gives him a handgun. Doug doesn't hesitate. He immediately starts running with the woman. Not long after, the 2 of them encounter pursuers. After a brief confrontation between the 2 sides, Doug and the woman manage to temporarily evade the enemy. While the 2 catch their breath, Doug doesn't forget to express his love. The 2 kiss each other. It seems that their relationship is not simple, but just as he covers the woman's escape, he is caught by the enemy's weapon. Doug sees no hope of escape. He tells the woman to go quickly. He promises to find her. The scene shifts. Doug wakes up from the bed. It turns out, it was just a dream. From his conversation with his wife Laurie, we learn, it's not the first time that Doug wakes up from nightmares. The content of his dreams is always the same. He is trapped and chased, unable to escape. And then he wakes up from the dream. When Laurie asks if there was someone else in his dream, Doug says there was only him. The sensitive Laurie is worried whether marriage has brought him additional pressure. Just as Doug is about to comfort Laurie, the phone rings, due to a sudden explosion in the United Federation of Britain. As a healthcare worker, Laurie needs to catch the early bus for work. From the TV news, the United Federation of Britain has been experiencing ongoing terrorist attacks recently. All indications suggest this is the work of the terrorist Matthias and his leading resistance organization. Not only that, in a terrorist attack that occurred 6 weeks ago, it was also carried out by Matthias's right-hand man. This man named Carl. He was a federal agent before becoming a terrorist. On the way to work, Doug unintentionally sees an advertisement for Memory Corp. He goes through routine security checks. His friend Wyden comes over to greet him. They enter the Descent navigation cabin together. Doug asks Wyden,
that we always sit in these exact same seats. For years.
Wyden doesn't pay much attention to Doug's words. The navigation cabin successfully passes through the Earth's core. They arrive at the other end, the United Federation of Britain. Before changing into their work uniforms to start their job, Doug asks Wyden if he knows about Memory Corp. Wyden suggests it's best to stay away from that stuff. Just 2 days ago, there were a colleague who used their services, resulting in his frontal lobe being removed. Doug doesn't pay much attention to Wyden's advice. He doesn't take it seriously. While working, always by their side, a colleague who overhears Doug and Wyden's conversation mentions, the services of Memory Corp are excellent. He has been there 3 times. The colleague then gives Doug a business card. He tells Doug to find a certain technician. They are in the middle of their conversation. The broadcast notifies Doug's department needs to go to the Human Resources Department. It turns out, because Doug's department produces robotic police officers, it belongs to a classified department. Given the current tense situation, government investigators need the employees to sign a confidentiality agreement. Doug expresses his dissatisfaction, but he reluctantly signs the document. Doug goes home after work. He sits in the navigation cabin. Doug thinks of the woman from his dreams again. He looks at his wife who is exhausted and lying in bed. Doug decides to go to a bar to relax. At the bar, he encounters Wyden again. Wyden says Doug has been off today. Doug feels deep down he has an important mission. Then he starts complaining about his current life. Wyden seems to see Doug thinking of the woman in his dream, advising him to cherish his current life. They part ways at the entrance of the bar. Wyden reminds Doug once again to get himself together. Wyden tells Doug to go home. With a good wife like Laurie, what more does he want? But Doug hesitates for a moment. He still decides to go to Memory Corp. He arrives smoothly at Memory Corp. Doug specifies that he wants to find Mick. He takes out the business card given by his co-worker. The receptionist recognizes him as a referral from a regular customer. She immediately arranges for Doug to enter a room. After a brief introduction by the receptionist, Doug chooses to experience the memories of a secret agent. Before Doug's session begins, technician Mick reminds him, all selected memories must not be real. If the same situation exists in reality, it would cause irreparable conflicts and confusion. Excessive memories would scramble the mind. Doug claims he has no secrets. He doesn't need to worry. During their conversation, the assistant injects Doug with a needle, leaving a mark on his right hand. Please pay attention to this mark, everyone. After examining Doug's memories, Mick says there are no issues. The service process proceeds smoothly. Just as the liquid is being injected into Doug's body, Mick becomes greatly alarmed. He quickly asks the assistant to remove the needle, but it's already too late. The liquid has already filled Doug's body. It turns out Doug is a secret agent. Doug is stunned in fear, but Doug doesn't have time to think. Federal police storm in. Doug claims he's a law-abiding citizen. Suddenly, he becomes like a warrior. Despite being captured, he quickly overcomes the police officers. Doug didn't anticipate another group of pursuers. However, quick-witted Doug immediately uses a grenade to create an escape tunnel. Trembling with fear, Doug returns home. He sees the news broadcasting about a terrorist attack. Doug reveals the truth to his wife. Laurie looks at her terrified husband. She tries to comfort Doug as much as possible. Laurie reassures him that everything will be okay. While they are hugging, Laurie tightens her grip, as if she wants to suffocate Doug. Doug realizes something is wrong. They immediately start struggling. Doug is greatly confused by his wife's sudden change. With Doug pointing a gun and questioning, Laurie reveals the truth. It turns out Laurie is a special agent from the United Federation of Britain. She was assigned to play the role of Doug's wife. Doug had his memories altered and implanted into his current life. In reality, they have only lived this life for 6 weeks. Due to the government's efforts to hide Doug, Laurie suspects he is an important individual. Taking advantage of Doug's contemplation, Laurie knocks him down and takes back the gun. Doug can only escape by jumping out of the window. After a thrilling Parker-style escape, Doug finally gets rid of the pursuers. At this moment, a mysterious person calls Doug. The mysterious person says he is contacting Doug as per his previous instructions, and informs him the police are using the implanted phone in Doug's body to track him. The person urges him to quickly get rid of the phone. Regarding his identity, Doug receives a name called Henry, and information about a bank safe deposit box. Doug retrieves the phone from his palm. Laurie almost catches Doug just a step behind. Laurie, who pounced on nothing, receives contact from Prime Minister Hagen. Hagen initially blames Laurie for her incompetence. Hagen insists that she must capture Doug again. After learning Doug's true identity, she decides to disregard the orders from above. Laurie instructs her subordinates to kill Doug on sight. On Doug's side, based on the information obtained, he arrives at the bank safe deposit box. The box contains disguises and various identification documents. There are also banknotes from different countries in the box. There is also a hidden video in the box. In the video, Doug says his current face is not his real appearance. It was altered after his failed escape. He was captured and underwent plastic surgery. His identity and life are both fake. The most important thing is, he wants to return to his apartment in the United Federation of Britain. He finds that crucial key. Then he knows what to do. However, during the security check, Doug's identity is still exposed. They end up on the highway after a gunfight. At this moment, a woman arrives in a car to provide assistance. She is the woman who frequently appears in Doug's dreams, but apart from her familiar face, Doug knows nothing about her. Meanwhile, Laurie is chasing them in a police car. She has the momentum of an original partner chasing a third party. After a thrilling car chase, Doug manages to narrowly escape the pursuit. He takes the injured woman to the apartment. Doug searches extensively. He still doesn't have any clues about his own identity. Just when Doug is at a loss, sitting in front of the piano, he can't help but start playing. After playing for a while, Doug notices something unusual. One of the piano keys is malfunctioning. He replaces the piano key he obtained from the bank safe deposit box. He puts it in place and continues playing. As a result, he unlocks a video segment. It turns out Doug's true identity is a former federal agent reported in the news. Initially, he was under Hagen's command, infiltrating a terrorist organization to assassinate the leader, Matthias. While after Doug learns the truth, he realizes the terrorist organization reported in the news, they are actually a resistance group. They only attack military facilities. Targeting civilians was Prime Minister Hagen's plan. As for why they targeted their own people, the Prime Minister wanted to increase the number of robot police officers logically, establishing his own army to invade the colony. To stop Hagen's conspiracy, Doug must utilize the termination code implanted in his mind to destroy the robots. Although Doug's memories were altered, he secretly prepared a black box. Doug kept the command. Now, what they need to do is contact the resistance group. Doug will give the command to the leader, Matthias, so he can shut down the machines. However, the current Doug still can't accept all of this. At this moment, a woman named Melina wakes up and tells him that everything is true. Before they can exchange more than a few words, the police have already surrounded the place. At this moment, Wyden unexpectedly arrives. He states, actually, Doug has schizophrenia. All of this is his imagination. The real him is still in the chair at the Memory Corporation. Wyden, in order to bring Doug back to reality, the doctor uses chemical means and sends Wyden into Doug's dream. The doctor hopes that a familiar person can help him. Melina vehemently denies it. She says Wyden and the police are in cahoots. They are only trying to awaken Doug's false memories. Doug also doesn't know whom to believe. Melina sees Wyden about to succeed in brainwashing. He urges Doug to kill Melina and end it all. Doug realizes something is wrong. He shoots and kills Wyden. Laurie, who was pretending outside, drops her disguise. She grabs a submachine gun and pursues them. They embark on another thrilling chase. Laurie proves herself as a well-trained female agent. In the elevator, she holds her own against two opponents. Doug and the other use a bomb to escape. Laurie, with no other choice, she can only watch as the two escape. In the end, the two arrive at an abandoned subway station. They meet members of the resistance group here. Then, they take the subway to a deserted area. The leader of the resistance, Matthias, is hiding here. Along the way, Doug learns Melina is Matthias's daughter. They make their way to the resistance organization's stronghold. Matthias wants to meet Doug alone. He is well aware of Doug's purpose for coming. He tells Doug, although the past is important, but the most important thing now is to extract the instructions to destroy the robots. Just as everyone is about to breach the memory firewall, while they are obtaining the instructions, Hagen has already tracked the location of the stronghold through Doug. A large army immediately attacks. The resistance fights to the death, but they are quickly destroyed by the government forces. Only Doug and Matthias' father-daughter duo remain. Hagen appears. He brings shocking information. It turns out that they never had the instructions to destroy the robots. All of this was just to lure out Matthias. He says as he shoots Matthias, Hagen has not only killed the leader, he has also obtained the resistance organization, and all the related intelligence. Now, she can completely eliminate the resistance organization. Hagen praises Doug. He says that everything has gone according to plan. It turns out that Doug infiltrated the resistance to find Melina, and deceived her trust. His fake arrest and memory wipe were all part of the plan. Their ultimate goal was just to kill Matthias. Indeed, if one wants to deceive the enemy, they must first deceive themselves. At this moment, Hagen blames Laurie. His orders were to bring Doug back alive, but Laurie almost killed Doug. Hagen is very displeased with Laurie's unilateral actions. Hagen says he will settle accounts with her later, since Doug's mission has been accomplished. According to the previous plan, they instruct Doug to retrieve Carl's memories. Hagen assigns his subordinates to handle this matter. He, along with Laurie, boards the spaceship. They are preparing to infiltrate the colony. Just as Doug is tied to a chair, as they prepare to administer the drug, the mysterious person they had contacted earlier quietly cuts the ropes binding Doug. The mysterious person is actually Doug's former subordinate before he lost his memory. After a fierce battle, all the soldiers around them are eliminated. Doug pilots a plane to stop Hagen. He sees Hagen leading a large army of robots. They board the descent heading for the colony. Doug carries a timed bomb. He also infiltrates the descent's navigation cabin. His goal is to destroy the descent. Then Doug rescues Melina. Doug says no matter what, he will never betray Melina. All his memories throughout his life are the memories of the two of them together. They cannot be erased. Melina also believes Doug. They fight and escape together. They reach the top of the teleporter. Unfortunately, Doug is captured. Fortunately, escaping Melina finds a spacecraft. She uses the spacecraft to repel the enemies on the top. They finally delay the bomb's explosion time. With a loud bang, the robot army is destroyed along with the descent. Laurie, who escaped by luck, is relentless. She disguises herself as Melina and enters the medical vehicle. She wants to assassinate Doug. Laurie harbors a great resentment towards Doug, but she is ultimately killed by Doug. At the end of the film, Doug and Melina survive. Prime Minister Hagen's whereabouts are unknown. The colony is completely free from the threat of invasion. The rising sun also seems to foreshadow a perfect ending. Then, the biggest twist of the whole film occurs. At this moment, Doug realizes, when he was injected at the memory company before, the scar left by the assistant is completely gone. Doug looks at the advertisement of the memory company in the distance. He seems to realize the truth. The story ends until the last minute of the film. The director reminds the audience, it was all a dream. From the moment Doug injected the drug at the memory company, he has been in a chair the whole time. All the subsequent plot developments, they were all fantasies in his mind. It's unknown how Doug will feel when he wakes up. The movie ends here. In one's own dream, one is always invincible. If one day, humans truly develop the ability to implant memories, I believe there will be many people like Doug. Humans will be immersed in dreams. If you like my channel, please click the subscribe button for me.